Computational chemistry. It's a field of chemistry that focuses on theoretical aspects and computer program. It's a branch of chemistry that uses computers to generate information that is complementary to experimental data on the structures, properties, and reactions of substances. This computation chemistry is otherwise called molecular modeling because it is a set of techniques for investigating chemical problems on a computer. And it uses computers to solve the equations, to calculate the structures and properties of molecules, gases, liquids, and solids, to explain or predict chemical phenomena. This computational chemistry including time-independent ab initio calculations, semi-empirical calculations, classical molecular dynamics, molecular mechanics, then density functional calculations. This computational chemistry is used for various applications. For example, it is used to calculate the molecular geometry or finding out the molecular geometry by using, if we know the shapes of molecules, like if we know its bond length, bond angle and dihedral angle, then we can calculate its geometry. And also this computational chemistry techniques is used to finding out the transition state of a chemical reaction. Again, it is used to find out the chemical reactivity. For example, knowing where the electrons are concentrated, or it's a nucleophilic site or electrophilic site, or where the electrophiles are attaching, all these things we have to find out using computational chemistry techniques. Again, we can find out the IR, UV and NMR spectra are used to this computational chemistry method. And also we can find out the interaction of a substrate with an enzyme by using this computational chemistry method. Also, we can find out different physical properties of substances like dipole moment, refractive index, then melting point, boiling point. All these things we can find out using this computational chemistry methods. Then I have already said that there are mainly 5 techniques included, or 5 methods included in this computational chemistry, and we can just go through this. First one is molecular mechanics. In a molecular mechanics method, we are considering a molecule or its atoms in a molecule as balls, and bonds between these atoms are considered as springs. So, based on a model of a molecule as a collection of balls held together by springs. If we know the normal spring length and the angle between them and how much energy it takes to stretch and bend the springs, we can calculate the energy of a given collection of balls and springs. That is, of a given molecule, the changing the geometry until the lowest energy is found enables us to do a geometrical optimization, or we can find out the geometry of a molecule by using this method. In method, we have to consider atoms as balls, and bond between these atoms is considered as springs, and we change the bond length by stretching or bending. We know the bond length is decreased when we are compressing, and the bond length is increased when we are stretching the bonds. And also when we bend this bond, the bond angle is also changing. By stretching, bending or compressing, we can find out bond length is and bond angle is changing, and from that we can find out its geometry of that molecule. So, find out the geometry of a molecule, we have to use this method. Then the next method is ab initio method. Ab initio means it's a Latin word. Its meaning is from the beginning, or from first principle. And here we are mainly calculations are based on Schrodinger equation. In ab initio method, we solve the Schrodinger equation and find out the energy and wave function of a molecule. Then the next method is semi-empirical method. This method is also based on Schrodinger equation, and we are using various integrals and various approximations, and by using these integrals and approximations we have to calculate the Schrodinger equation. However, more approximations are made in solving it compared to ab initio method. In semi-empirical method, very complicated integrals that must be calculated in ab initio method is not actually evaluated in semi-empirical method. Both this ab initio and semi-empirical method, in both these methods, the properties, energy or wave function of a molecule is calculated based on Schrodinger equation by using various integrals and approximations. Compared to ab initio method, in semi-empirical method we use less amounts or less number of integrals we have calculated. That's why this semi-empirical calculations are slower than but faster than ab initio calculation. Then the next method is density functional calculation. In this method also we have to calculations are based on the Schrodinger equation like ab initio and Schrodinger equation, semi-empirical calculation. However, unlike the other two methods, DFT does not calculate a wave function but rather derives the electron distribution directly, or the wave function is calculated, not calculate the wave function. Here in density functional theory, we have to calculate the electron distribution by using electron density function. So, density functional calculations are usually faster than ab initio but slower than semi-empirical. DFT is the newest or relatively new method. The last fifth method, that is molecular dynamic method. In our syllabus we have not discussed more about this molecular dynamics method, but this method is calculated by applying the laws of motion. Then the main thing is potential energy surface. A potential energy surface describes the potential energy of a system, especially a collection of atoms, in terms of specific parameters, usually the atom's positions. In a potential energy surface it's a relationship, the mathematical or graphical relationship between energy of a molecule and its geometry. For example, if we consider a molecule, here the atoms, it is an example for an H2O molecule. Here center is oxygen and two hydrogen atoms are attached to this oxygen, and the bond between this oxygen and hydrogen, that bond is considered as a spring, and these atoms are considered as balls. If we take a macroscopic balls and spring model of diatomic or triatomic molecule in its normal geometry, that means it's an equilibrium condition. If we consider a diatomic molecule in its equilibrium condition, we know if we draw a diagram between x and y axis, or a graph, if we draw a graph by plotting bond length along the x-axis and energy along the y-axis, we get a parabolic curve. In the case of a diatomic molecule, we know in a diatomic molecule like AB, there is only two atoms and one bond length is there. That the parameters changing in that molecule is only its bond length. So we can find out its energy by considering its bond length, or if we change that bond length, its energy is changing. In an equilibrium condition, the bond length is its energy is almost zero. And we stretch or compress that bond, the bond length is changing, its bond length is decreasing or increasing. Whenever there is an increase or decrease, the potential energy is changing. So, a potential energy shows how the potential energy surface shows how the potential energy of a chemical system changes with the relative position of the atom. To know about potential energy surface, we need to understand the basics. Consider a diatomic molecule like A2, A plus, A that are reactants together to form A2 molecule. Here, for this case, there is 74 picometer is the stable bond length, and the molecule is stable in that state. 74 picometer. This is a two-dimensional potential energy diagram of a diatomic molecule, where in an equilibrium condition its bond length is 74 picometer and potential energy is almost zero. And when we compress this bond length, the bond length is decreased and potential energy is increased, and again if we stretch that bond length, the bond length is increased and again the potential energy is increased. For two atoms, it is simple to explain potential energy diagram. Consider this following equation here. A plus BC gives AB plus C. Here, A atom reacts with BC. Then this solid line in between this BC, the solid line represents bonds. Next, AB is the solid line. After the reaction completed, there is we get A plus BC gives AB plus BC. During this reaction, it undergoes some transitions. A slowly interacting with B, and slowly a transition state is formed. A transition state is developed. A slowly with B, and slowly B with C, and next A and B bond is strong, and C starts loose from B, and finally there is a strong AB bond is developed. Looking upon these reactions as such, we can understood how the potential energy surface was. So in this reaction, we can draw two potential energy diagrams for both this reaction. One is this one. Here there is a strong BC bond and the bond length between BC in equilibrium condition at this potential energy lowest point. And in this case there is a strong AB bond is developed and the potential energy minimum at this point. And here an equilibrium condition between A and B, and this is a stable state. And we get two types of this potential energy diagram for this reaction. And next I am going to switch these two graphs. Both of them are two-dimensional, and switch them all together to form a three-dimensional graph. Then it will be calculated potential energy diagram. This is one potential energy diagram. Here the BC is the equilibrium condition, and this one, the left to right one is another one. Here the AB is the lowest point, and we switch these two diagrams together, we get a three-dimensional graph. Then only we can say it is a potential energy surface diagram. You can see here BC, AB, and this axis is potential energy. Now this particular graph, it has length L and height. That's why we have to understand the contour form. What is contour? Basically, if you have expression expressing the height of something in two-dimensional, we express in the form of contour. If you have expressed the height of something in two-dimensional, we express in the form of contour. This particular height here, this is length and this is height. This is the diagram. Here, this particular height, I drawn lines like this. From the top, I can see only length. If we look from the top of this potential energy surface diagram, I can see only this length. The highest, this is the highest point facing down the contour. This graph, turn this graph little like this. We can see different ovals. Here we can see different ovals like this. Ovals. These are different ovals. Here some ovals are like, these are some ovals. And this side also there are some ovals. In between these two places there is some missing ovals are here. And there are contours are developed. There are different contours are developed. The minimum for BC and minimum for, and moving from BC to AB is the reaction path. Here minimum contour for AB, BC, and this here minimum contour for AB, and moving from BC to AB is the reaction path. This yellow line shows the reaction path. And this flatty region, this is the flatty region, this is an unstable state. That's why we take this path only, not through this way, because this is the unstable condition, unstable state. So we take this reaction path. And in between these two contours, there is some empty space, and that point, this point is the highest point in the reaction path. Through BC to AB, this is the reaction path, and the highest point of the reaction path is this point, and this point is known as the transition state. The highest point in the reaction path AB to AB to BC or BC to AB, thus the highest point ABC, that reaction transition, that path, that point is the transition state. When we climbing this contour and climbing down the highest when we are reading AB. Only the molecule is stable through this reaction path. Molecule is stable through this reaction path. If we make it's a two-dimensional diagram, we can see here A react with BC and it goes through this reaction path. At this point, there is A, B, C. A transition state is formed in between these contours and again goes through this reaction path. Finally, we get AB plus C, and this is the unstable state. A, B and C all with the stay in the atomic state. They are not working potential energy surface. So this is the pathway of reaction pathway of a reaction, and the highest point is the transition state. In computational chemistry, help to find out the reaction pathway and mechanisms of different types of reaction positions, etc. in SN1, SN2 type reactions. All these reactions we can find out the reaction pathway and the transition state by using this computational chemistry methods. Then the reaction path is defined as the pathway between two minima that we have seen in that diagram. The reactant passes through a maximum in energy along the reaction pathway connecting two minima. That maxima is called a saddle point, or that transition state is otherwise known as saddle point. The transition state is the first order saddle point on the potential energy surface. If we consider a potential energy surface, it looks like this one, and the molecule first the product starts reaction from here. The reagents starts reaction from here. This is the lowest energy point, and this is the highest energy point, that is the transition state, and this is also a minimum point. This is a local minima, and during this reaction, during a reaction, there are different types of local minima or minimum energy points and highest energy points. Various are obtained, and the minimum energy points are called local minima, and the highest energy points are called or transition state is called a saddle point. This is a reaction pathway in a potential energy surface. Here there are some minimum energy points. That minimum energy point is called the local minima. The lowest energy point is called a global minima. Various types of local minimas are obtained in a reaction pathway. The highest energy point is known as saddle point, and this reaction pathway is called this pathway is known as reaction pathway. Then all the minima on a potential energy surface of a molecule represent stable stationary points where the forces on atoms sum to zero. Minima on this surface corresponds to optimized geometries. The lowest energy minimum is called global minimum. Global minimum represents the most stable conformation. There can be many local minima, such as higher energy conformations of isomers. The local minima, less stable conformations. The saddle points represents transition conformations between minima. The transition structure between reactants and products of a reaction is saddle point on the surface. A potential energy surface can be used to find both saddle points and reaction coordinates. The vibrational properties of the molecule can also be obtained from potential energy surface. Then by using the conformation of N-butane, we get different types of global minima, then local minima, then saddle points. Example, in the case of N-butane, the anti-conformation is known as global minima. Then Gaussian conformation, there are two Gaussian conformations, that is known as local minima, and eclipsed conformation is known as saddle point. Then the stationary point. Stationary point is a flat area of the potential energy surface. That is parallel to the horizontal line corresponding to one geometrical parameter. That is the stationary point. That's all about potential energy surface. Then the next topic is ab initio. First we have discussed various types of methods used in computational chemistry. Mainly there are 5 methods: MM method, ab initio method, semi-empirical method, then DFT method and MM method, molecular dynamic method, in which first we have studied about ab initio method. Ab initio is the Latin word. The meaning is from the beginning. We begin with the fundamental physical properties and we calculate how electrons and nuclei interact. Most often, this requires solving approximations to the time-independent Schrödinger equation. Before going to the details of ab initio method, we just go through self-consistent field method. The electronic Schrödinger equation can be solved exactly for one electron systems. We use certain approximations like variation method, perturbation method, etc. to calculate the wave function and energy for the system. All these things we have calculated Schrödinger equation only for one electron systems. But coming to many electron systems, the solutions of Schrödinger wave equation is further complicated. This is because in order to solve Schrödinger wave equation for multi-electron systems, we deal with many electrons which are indistinguishable interacting particles. In this case, Hamiltonian should include the inter-electronic terms which are very difficult to compute. So, in the ionization potential approximation, we consider a 2-electron atom without mutual repulsion of the electrons and then makes the corrections using variations and perturbation methods. But this is not possible for multi-electron atoms due to number of electrons. So in Schrödinger self-consistent field method, we know that it is incorrect to represent an n-electron system as a product of n one-electron functions. That is, the hydrogen-like orbitals will not give correlation or corrected energy in the case of many electron atoms. To solve this, Hartree proposed a method known as self-consistent field method. Altogether, we can say that the Schrödinger equation is used only for calculating the electrons for a one-electron system. For many electron system, the calculation of Schrödinger wave equation is difficult. So, in self-consistent field method, we have to calculate the multi-electron system. We can solve multi-electron system by using Hartree proposed a mechanism that is known as self-consistent field method. To calculate multi-electron system to solve the Schrödinger equation for a multi-electron system, Hartree proposed a method known as self-consistent field method. In order to determine the potential energy term or inter-electronic interaction term, Hartree assumed that each electron in the atom moves in a potential field due to the nucleus and all other electrons. This is an interaction method in which we calculate the modified atomic orbitals for each electron moving through the cloud of all other electrons. In the case of an n-electron system, we calculate n modified orbitals and recalculate the potential energy with these modified orbitals. Calculations are repeated until we get a set of orbitals whose potential energies were not much different from the previous sets. Such orbitals are consistent with the potential field, thus calculations and are called self-consistent field orbitals. And the final wave function psi is equal to psi 1, psi 2, etc. to psi n. But this self-consistent field Hartree-Fock method also, this Hartree-Fock method is also how some drawbacks. Hartree-Fock's self-consistent field represents psi as psi is equal to psi 1, psi 2, etc. to psi n, which was not antisymmetric. Fock used antisymmetric wave function and followed the same procedure by Hartree. The orbital finally obtained are called Hartree-Fock self-consistent atomic orbital. The product of antisymmetric wave function represent as the determination. In Hartree-Fock, for many electron system, there are potential energy terms, and these potential energy terms are calculated using Hartree-Fock self-consistent field approximation or self-consistent field atomic orbital, where the wave functions are antisymmetric. And in this Hartree-Fock method, we are used various approximations for calculating the Hartree-Fock method by using ab initio calculation. The most common type of ab initio calculation is Hartree-Fock calculation, in which the first primary approximation is known as central field approximation. We already said about the Hartree method and Fock method, etc. According to Hartree, for any atom or molecule with more than one electron, an exact analytical solution of Schrodinger wave equation is not possible because of electron-electron repulsion. That is, Coulombic electron-electron repulsion is not specifically taken into account. However, its net effect is included in the calculation. That is known as the primary approximation. That means in primary Hartree-Fock approximation, we have neglect the electron-electron repulsion, and here we only consider total an electron-electron repulsion interaction is a sum of an interaction. Each electron-electron interaction is we are neglecting and not specifically taken into account this electron-electron repulsion, and we take only a net effect of inter-electronic interaction during calculation. This is a variational calculation, that is, approximate energies calculated are all equal to or greater than exact energy. That means the during the actual calculation, we know we are considering each electron-electron interactions. But actual calculation, by using this central field approximation, we neglect all this each inter-electron repulsion or attraction energy, and we take a total net effect for this interaction, and as a result, the approximate energies calculated are or equal or greater than the exact energy. Because of the central field approximation, the energies from Hartree-Fock calculations are always greater than the exact energy and tend to limiting value called a Hartree-Fock limit. This exact energy is greater than, or Hartree-Fock energy is greater than the exact energy, and it is always greater than the Hartree-Fock limit. One of the advantage of this method is that it breaks the many electron Schrodinger equation into simpler one electron equations. The second approximation in the Hartree-Fock calculation is that the wave function must be described by some functional form, which is only known exactly for a few one-electron systems. The Hartree-Fock wave function, the Hartree products are psi R1 R2 is equal to psi 1 R1 into psi 2 R2. That is Hartree products. The individual one-electron wave function psi I are called molecular orbitals. This form of wave function does not allow for instantaneous interactions of the electrons. Instead, the electrons feel the average field of all the other electrons in the system. The Hartree form of wave function is sometimes called an independent electron approximation. So, the Hartree-Fock method, we are using two approximation. One is central field approximation and the second one is based on the wave function. Here, the Hartree-Fock wave function or Hartree wave function is an independent electron approximation based on the independent electron approximation. So, the Hartree-Fock wave function is also an antisymmetric wave function. It can be written as Slater determinant. Psi is equal to 1 by root of n into psi 1 etc. to psi n so and so. This model of showing wave function is known as Slater determinant. This ensures the electrons are indistinguishable and are therefore associated with every orbital. A Slater determinant is written as determinant psi 1 to psi n. Then this Hartree-Fock method we have used two functions. The functions used most often are linear combination of Slater type orbitals and Gaussian type orbitals. In Slater type orbitals exponential raised to minus ax, and in Gaussian type or GTO type orbitals exponential raised to minus ax square. The wave function is formed from linear combinations of atomic orbitals or more often from linear combinations of basis functions. Assumes electronic wave function can be written as antisymmetrized product of molecular orbital, that is known as Slater determinant. Then the drawbacks of these Hartree-Fock equations, Hartree-Fock methods are: the Hartree-Fock equations are not very useful for molecular calculations, mainly because they do not prescribe a mathematically viable procedure getting the initial guesses for the molecular orbital wave functions, which we need to initiate the iterative process, and the wave functions may be so complicated that they contribute nothing to a qualitative understanding of electron distribution. So in 1951, Ruthin and Hall independently pointed out that these problems can be solved by representing molecular orbitals as linear combinations of basis functions. Because each basis function may usually be regarded as some kind of atomic orbital, this linear combination of basis functions approach is commonly called a linear combination of atomic orbital representation of the molecular orbitals. The set of basis functions used for a particular calculation is called basis set. For a molecular wave function, the electronic orbitals of the constituent atoms form a natural set of basis functions. These atomic orbitals can in turn be represented by different types of mathematical functions. So, the Ruthin-Hall developed a Hartree-Fock model, that is known as restricted and unrestricted Hartree-Fock models. In a closed system or fully filled orbital, each level is occupied by two electrons with opposite spins. Whereas in an open shell system, there are partially filled levels containing only one electron. For example, in the case of helium, the electronic configuration is 1s2 and it is known as a closed shell. But in the case of oxygen, with electronic configuration 1s2, 2s2, 2p2, 2px2, 2py1, 2pz1 is an open shell atomic system. When an electron is added to a closed shell system, interaction of this electron with the electrons already present in the system will be different. The added electron will interact with the electron of the system, keeping parallel spin only. In a closed shell system, the orbitals can be grouped in pairs with the same orbital dependence and orbital energy, but with the opposite spins. Spin functions are known as alpha and beta. So, we can say in Hartree-Fock calculation on closed shell systems, means even number of electrons, all electrons paired, the electrons of opposite spin up alpha versus spin down beta, occupy the same spatial orbitals. The restriction of using the same spatial orbitals is usually reflected in a restricted Hartree-Fock calculation. So, restricted Hartree-Fock calculation or restricted Hartree-Fock model means here the spatial arrangements are all in one spatial arrangement, single spatial arrangement, and alpha and beta spins are arranged in a same spatial orbital and they are all paired. Alpha and beta spins are paired. They are paired and they are in a same spatial orbital with the same energy. So, such model is known as a restricted Hartree-Fock model. Then, restricted open Hartree-Fock model means there the spatial orbitals are same, alpha and beta spins are arranged in the same spatial orbital or the energy of the orbitals are same, but they are opened, or one spin is alpha or beta spin is unpaired. That means that is known as a restricted open Hartree-Fock model. Then another one is unrestricted Hartree-Fock model, where the spins are in different energy, or spin orbitals are different. The alpha and beta spins are arranged in different spatial orbitals. That is known as unrestricted Hartree-Fock model. The next topic is basis set. A basis set is a set of functions used to describe the shape of orbitals in an atom. When ab initio or density functional theory calculations are done, basis set must be specified. A basis set is a mathematical description of orbitals of a system which is used for approximate theoretical calculation or modeling. It is a set of basic functional building blocks that can be added to have the features that we need. By adding things, possibly after multiplying each of them, it's on constant psi is equal to alpha 1, psi 1, etc. to alpha k, psi k, where k is the size of basis set and alpha is the basis functions. So, if we find out the wave function of a molecule, we have to find adding this basis set together, basis set with basis function, different basis sets and basis functions we get, and this by using this basis function we make some basis sets, and different basis sets all together we get total wave function. So, basis functions make basis set. From the basis functions we get basis set, and for a molecule there are different types of basis sets, and adding this basis set together we get its wave function. Atomic orbitals are real solutions of Hartree-Fock equations for the atom, that is wave functions for a single electron in the atom. Hence these functions are named as basis functions or contractions, which are more approximate. The general expression for basis function is equal to BF is equal to n into e raised to e minus alpha r. Then basis functions, we get basis functions from atomic orbitals. Atomic orbitals combine together to get molecular orbitals. The atomic orbitals wave functions to get molecular orbital wave function. From that we get total wave function. So STO and GTO are two different types of basis functions. STO we are represented by using this equation that we have already studied in the previous chapters, and this is GTO, and 3 GTO together, this 3G represents three basis functions, and 1 STO is equal to 3 GTO. So we can represent a simple basis functions are STO 3G. STO means Slater type orbitals, which represents the electron density well in valence region and beyond. Then it is evaluating integrals is difficult. But in Gaussian type orbitals, easier to evaluate integrals but does not represent electron density well. It overcomes this is by using linear combination of GTOs. Then there are various types of basis set. The minimum basis set. One is the minimum basis set. Here only enough functions are used to contain the electrons of the neutral atoms. Example, we consider the first row, that is 1s, 2s, 2p. There are 5 atomic orbitals on 1, 2 and 3 p orbitals, total 5 atomic orbitals. If we consider second row, 1s, 2s, 3s, 2p and 3p, there are 9 atomic orbitals. So we consider the case of CH4 molecule. It has hydrogen has 1s orbital and carbon has 1s, 2s, 2px, 2py, 2pz. Total 5 and plus 1. There are total 6 atomic orbitals. One basis function for every atomic orbital required to describe the free atom. Most common minimum basis set is STO3G, linear combination of 3 Gaussian type orbitals fitted to 1 Slater type orbital. Then the next one is double zeta. Here each atomic orbital is divided into 2. That means 1s orbital is 1s orbital has 2 basis functions, 2 functions, that is 1s and 1s dash. So for hydrogen there are 2 atomic orbital or 2 basis function. Then lithium neon has 10 atomic orbital. Think 1s and 1s dash as inner and outer functions. The inner function has larger eta, exponential value, and it is therefore tighter. Outer 1s has smaller eta, therefore it is more diffuse. Then double zeta basis set, it has 2 sizes of basis functions for each valence atomic orbital. If we represent this double zeta 321G for CH4 molecule, hydrogen 1s, that means the 1s orbital is divided into 2 or split up into 2, that is 1s and 1s dash. Carbon is again 1s, 2s, 2s dash, 2px, 2py, 2pz, 2px dash, 2py dash, 2pz dash. Here the inner core orbital is not splitted. So we get the wave or the basis function as 321G basis set. Then if we consider triplet zeta, then each atomic orbital is split up into 3. For example, in 321G basis set for fluorine, we can explain this 321G as 1s orbital described by 3 primitive Gaussians contracted to one basis function. One set of 2s orbital is and 2p orbital described by the contraction of 2 primitive Gaussians, and one set of 2s and 2p orbital is described by one primitive Gaussian. This 3 is represented for inner core orbital and the other 2 are for the valence orbitals. So the inner core orbital or the oneness orbital is described by 3 primitive Gaussians contracted by one basis function, and the one 2s and 2p orbital is described by 2 primitive Gaussians, and the one 2s and 2p orbital is described by one primitive Gaussian orbitals. So if we explain this term 321G like this only. Again it is showed here. This 3 is represented or this 3 for the number of Gaussian functions summed to describe the inner shell orbital. This 2 for the number of Gaussian functions that comprise the first STO of the double zeta. This after this hash there are 2 numbers which represents double zeta basis set. If there is 3 number, which means it is a triple zeta basis set. And this one, the number of Gaussian functions summed in the second STO. The most common minimum basis set is STO NG basis sets. It involves a linear combination of n G2Os fitted to each STO. The individual G2Os are called primitive orbitals, while the combined functions are called contracted functions. Then the third basis set is split to valence basis set. In the split to valence basis sets are single function for the core, and the valence functions are split into double zeta or triple zeta. The split to valence basis set uses one function for orbitals that are not in the valence shell and 2 functions for those in the valence shell. For example, 631G basis set for fluorine. Here, oneness orbital described by 6 primitive Gaussians contracted by one basis function. One set of 2s and 2p orbital described by the contraction of 3 primitive Gaussians. One set of 2s and 2p orbitals described by one primitive Gaussian. Then that's all about split to valence basis set and minimal and double zeta basis set. Next one is polarization basis function, where when bonds are formed in molecules, the atomic orbitals are distorted from their original shape to provide optimal bonding. For example, if s orbital is combined with p orbital, we get a orbital like this. That means the shape of the orbital is changed. By representing or by finding out the electron density distribution, we can use polarization basis functions. This polarization basis functions is represented like this starring. Here 631G double star, which means the first star is the D functions for all heavy atoms, and the second star is the 1p function for all hydrogen atoms. Then here add p orbitals to hydrogen, add d orbitals to second row atoms, add f orbitals to transition metals. Whenever there is an orbital interaction, the shape of the product orbital is different. So if s orbital to p orbital, that represented by one star after G, and if combine this second, that means double star or dp, we can represent double star or dp. One star means d and one more star is there, then it is p. Then 631d means d functions for heavy atoms, or it is represented by 631g star. 631 G dp means d functions for heavy atoms and p functions for hydrogen atoms, or it can be represented as 631 G double star. Then Pople type basis set. Pople type basis set means KNLMG basis sets, or it is a notation for the basis set. Already we have we saw that 631G, 6311G, etc. That 6 is the general, here the general representation for that one is KNLMG, 6311G. This general notation is known as Pople type notation or Pople type basis set, or of split valence type with K in the front of the dash indicating how many primitive Gaussian type orbitals are used for representing core orbitals. NLM indicate both how many functions the valence orbitals are split into and how many primitive Gaussian type orbitals used for representation. Two values NL indicate the split valence, while 3 NLM indicate triple split valence. The values before G indicate S and P functions in the basis. The polarization functions are placed after G. That's all about today. Thank you.